Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to talk about tracking today. Specifically, the only 3 numbers that you need to track in order to have financial wellness. In order to have financial success, we just need to track 3 simple numbers. Now, this is for those of you who are deep in the weeds with your spreadsheets, who love fiddling with numbers, who love looking at all the categories and all the things. I want to pull you out. I want to give you just the 3 main ones that you need to focus on. And if you are not tracking at all, if it overwhelms you to think about that, great. I'm going to give you the only 3 that you need to focus on. Now, tracking specifically, if you are a woman, I am willing to bet money that you have a tumultuous relationship with tracking, side-eyeing MyFitnessPal, right? When we think about tracking, a lot of the 2 main things we track is like health, whether it's fitness or dieting, calories, and then money. These are the 2 main offenders when it comes to tracking and fucking up your relationship with both of these things, right? Like your physical health in your body and then your relationship with money. Now, I'm not saying tracking is bad. What I'm saying is that tracking is a very slippery slope into obsession. And tracking can also be the reason that you fully avoided knowing anything about your numbers in any realm because you don't want anything to do with it. So when we're talking about tracking these 3 numbers, the reason why we want to track anything to start with is because you want your goals and your actual relationship with money to be grounded in facts, in reality. And so I want you to have data of what's going on inside of your bank accounts and inside of your numbers as you are developing this trusting, safe, delicious relationship with your money. Now, on the other end of it, we don't want to go so far into the weeds with the spreadsheets and the budgeting and the micromanaging where every single dollar is going, because then what that does is that completely fucks you up with your money, right? It has you depending on the spreadsheet and the tracking itself to keep you healthy rather than this relationship. So let me move into like the physical health realm. Like intuitive eating, that's how our bodies were meant to function. But the thing is, we've all, especially as women, we have such fucked up relationships with how we eat and how we move our body and the conditioning we've been given around all of that stuff since we popped out of the womb that we actually have like fucked up our internal systems really trying to we don't know how to intuitive eat because all of our internal systems are messed up. So and I had her on the podcast. She was actually one of my clients. Her name is Megan Hansen. She has this incredible business learning about how your metabolism works and basically recalibrating your inner mechanism to be able to intuitive eat. But there are some like numbers to hit and there's like a few meta things to be tracking just so you know that you're on the right track, that you're on the right path. So what we do with money is similar to that over here, where we're setting up your money flow, we're developing this healthy relationship, we're like reconnecting you with your money. But then also there's a couple of numbers that I want you to have your eye on to make sure that you are going down the right path to help you hit your goals, to help you have fat ass bank accounts, to help you be able to be work optional earlier, to help you go full time in your creative endeavors, whatever it is. We want to be tracking a couple of these numbers to make sure you are on that trajectory. Now, what this is going to require, I'm going to talk to my super trackers for a second. Now, again, I used to be this way, so I get it. A lot of people's brains, right, mine included, what tracking feels like is it feels like you have control. It feels like you're doing something. And the more tracking you do, the more like fiddling with numbers or like goals or benchmarks or whatever that you can do, the more it feels like you're doing things, like you're accomplishing something. And there's this perfection element, right? I know I got a lot of perfectionists listening to this podcast, but there's a perfection element where it's like, okay, if I can do this perfectly, nothing bad will happen to me. If I can get all of my numbers perfect, nothing bad will ever happen. If I can close all of my rings, are people still closing rings on the Apple Watch these days? I don't know, whatever the new, what is it? The Aura rings? There's like rings now, right? Where everyone's trying to like get their perfect sleep scores and like their stress scores or whatever it is, trying to get whatever that is, the benchmark. If I can do that perfectly, my health will be good and nothing bad will ever happen to me. That's a lot of what perfectionism boils down to. I have a podcast that's coming out with, I did a one-on-one coaching call with this person, and we were talking about perfectionism. And it's like, if I can do it perfect, like, I won't have to feel anything bad and I won't receive any backlash. Like, if it's perfect, I'm absolving myself from having to deal with any negativity. And I hate to burst the bubble, right? I've had to burst this bubble on myself a million times, but that's not how it works. That is absolutely not how it works. I'm going to share a story here where this really, like, where this bubble burst for me so hard, and I've had to grapple with it for the last few years, where I got in a really bad car accident back in 2019, I believe, 2019, and like, thank God I'm alive kind of car accident. And I was doing nothing wrong. I was driving the speed limit. I was following all the rules of the road, and there was just some crazy person behind me, Florida driver, pissed that I wasn't going 30 over the speed limit, and she hit the back of my car, right? And like, that's what happened. So for me, there was this moment of that I was having to grapple with after the fact, where I was like, I did everything perfectly. I wasn't breaking any rules. I was doing the right thing. Why did this bad thing happen to me? I did nothing wrong. And I think that the perfectionism element of a lot of us, that's what it boils down to, of like, if I can do it perfect, nothing bad will happen. So why we need to release a lot of the tracking is because, one, that's just not a true statement. You could do everything perfectly to a T and bad things could still happen. My brain was like, you could still die tomorrow. I don't want to go like that morbid, but it's true. Like, I think about all these biohackers, and they're spending so much time and energy and money to like extend their life expectancy, but they're decreasing their quality of life now. But like, they could get hit by a car tomorrow, right? Like, those sorts of things. Now, okay, let me like pull back away from the morbidness of this, but we also do want to track some things, right? Again, in the realm of wanting to make sure you're on the right path for where you want to go, but we don't want to go so far with it that it decreases your quality of life now, which is, again, what living in your spreadsheets tends to make you do. So tracking keeps you in the fiddly bits. It keeps you in the stuff that is not needle moving. That's not actually getting you to where you want to go. It is a distraction from those bigger picture things, like, you know, wanting to make income that actually is in alignment with where you want to go, or like doesn't drain you. Things like wanting to build friendships and community, life fulfillment, like these big picture things. Sticking in your spreadsheet and tracking every little category and every little dime, that's distracting you, right? And again, on the other end of it, for my non-trackers, my people who are so avoidant of all of that, I do want you a little bit in the numbers, because I do want you on a path towards all of those deep desires that you haven't even let yourself fully want, like the kind of lifestyle you want, like what you want to be thinking about your life when you're on your deathbed, right? I feel like the past few like podcasts I've recorded, I've gone real meta, and I just feel like pandemic, election, what's happening in the world, what's happening in the stars. It's made me go real big picture, and like some family stuff that's going on. It's like, yeah, so when you're on your deathbed, anyway, So, like, what do you want to be thinking about your life? Like, I want to make sure that you don't just YOLO fuck it your way through life and you don't actually achieve the things that you want to achieve, or not even achieve. I don't even like that word anymore. Experience the things you want to experience, because money wasn't there to be your supporter. I want money to be there to be your supporter. So let's get into it now. Here are the 3 numbers that I want you to track. The only 3 you need to track for your financial wellness. First thing, your firm number. So these first 2 numbers, your firm and your flex, you may have heard me talk about these before. These are part of the money flow method. And you split them up into 2 different checking accounts. So when you add your firm and your flex number together, these equal your total monthly expenses. Every single month, what it costs to live as you, it's called your baseline. So what is firm and what is flex? Your firm number is auto pays, it's bills, it's anything that is a consistent expense month to month to month. Why I call it firm and not non-negotiables is because, like, food and gas is part of non-negotiables, but the amount that you use and need and eat throughout the month to month might fluctuate. So those things are actually part of your flex expenses. So what I want you to think about for your firm expenses, I want you to make a list of these, right? You only have to make the list once and then you know your number. But it is your rent. Your utilities is the only thing that will probably fluctuate a little bit, like between the winter and the summer, right? Ours like doubles in the summer because of AC, because we are like not hot weather people at night. So your utilities is the only thing that will actually fluctuate. Your phone bill, so all of your bills, but then also like your Pretty Litter subscription, your Netflix subscription, your gym membership, if you have a massage membership, right? Like I know there's like a monthly massage membership where you get a credit, whatever. Anything that is an auto pay or an auto draft. So I want you to think about how the money gets pulled from your account. Does it automatically get put on your credit card? Does it automatically get pulled from your checking account? That's going to be your firm expenses. So when I say to track this number, it's more about auditing this number. So this isn't something you're really going to have to track month to month to month. You'll find it once and I want you to audit it, and then it'll be the same moving forward unless you decide to change cities, move apartments, right? You move somewhere with a different cost of living, that may change it. When you do an audit of your firm expenses, go through wherever you spend your money, a credit card statement or a bank statement, and I want you to list out all of these expenses, when they get pulled and how much gets pulled, what it's for. And I want you to see what feels good and what doesn't. So many of my clients end up shaving like a couple $100s off of their monthly expenses just because they find stuff they didn't really use, or they didn't really want, or like they used to use, but it's just not exciting for them anymore. Or with inflation, right? Like sometimes, now that we're seeing much higher levels of inflation than we did back in the day, even if it's something you used to really love and it used to feel really valuable, with inflation, the cost now no longer matches what you're gaining from it. So it's okay if some of the things you used to value started to fall away because the cost just doesn't match what you want anymore. So you're gonna audit those firm expenses and then you're gonna add them all up, right? Like, what is your firm number for the month? And then now let's move on to flex. This is the second number I want you to track. Your flex is everything else. And this is where most of your money leaks will be. So this is food. Food is the one that I just hear everyone and their mom is like, I spend too much on food, or like, food is the one that people tell me to spend less on, or whatever. Food, a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about food spending. So food, gas, entertainment, what you buy on Amazon, when you go to Target, shopping, show tickets, anything like that, like everything else you spend money on that isn't an auto pay, isn't a firm expense, goes into your flex spending, okay? So why I say most of your money leaks are here is because you are like manually spending money in this account throughout the month, right? Whether it's a swipe, it's an Apple Pay, or it's an online purchase, this is where that is happening. And it's really easy for money to get spent on shit you don't really care about in the flex category. So when we're talking about your flex number, I don't want you to go in and categorize and figure out how much am I spending on eating out? How much am I spending on coffee? How much am I spending on Amazon? How much am I spending? No, that is too much to be tracking month to month to month. What I will say is if that feels helpful for you to do an audit for 1 month, or you like find data from the past 3 months, if you want to just see, right, like get that baseline data, great, you can go get that data. But then moving forward, I actually only want you focused on the overall number that you are spending on flex stuff throughout the month. Now, how does that even work? So instead of tracking in a spreadsheet or having, like the app You Need a Budget bing you every single time you like are getting close to your limit on eating out or whatever, and it like shames you on your Apple Watch. No, we don't need that. What you do is you separate all of this spending either into a separate checking account or onto a separate credit card. And so if you're using a checking account at the beginning of the month, you're going to fill it up with the total amount that you want to spend for these expenses throughout the month. Or if you're using a credit card, you want to zero out the total amount that's sitting on a credit card at the end of or at the beginning of every single month. So you're starting with a $0 total balance on your credit card at the beginning of the month. So now with either of these options, like let's say your flex amount is $2,000, okay? If you're spending that in a checking account, you're just going to watch that number go down throughout the month, right? And like halfway through the month, you check in on it, you've spent $1,000. That's about on par, right? We're halfway through the month, you've spent half the money. But if you're a week in and you see you've spent $1,500, it's like, whoa, maybe I need to slow down, right? And then on the credit card, instead of watching the number go down, you're gonna watch the number go up. So if you've decided you wanna spend, let's say $1,000 throughout the month, you're gonna watch that number go up throughout the month on your credit card. So it's really easy to track the overall number rather than being in a spreadsheet or being in an app. Because what happens so much of the time is like you create this perfect plan on a spreadsheet and you map out all the numbers or you plug everything into an app. But then what you're seeing in your bank account isn't what you put on the spreadsheet. You're like, wait, where did all the money go? I don't understand what's happening. You have to take what you wanted to do in the spreadsheet and just put it into your bank account, right? So instead of trying to restrict your spending in the spreadsheet, just allocate, put guardrails around the amount of money you want to spend throughout the month in one checking account or on one credit card so you can easily understand what's been spent throughout the month. And then also it's sectioned off. So it's not like, oh, did a paycheck hit and that's why there's more? Or like, oh my God, I forgot that auto pay was coming out. Like, no, separating it. Your firm sits in a different checking account and then your flex gets to sit in this account. So this you just want to check in on every couple of days just to see the total number. Now, you are going to be in charge of deciding what you want your flex number to be every single month, right? You want it to stay about the same every month. But like, let's say, right, my birthday month, I love to go wild in April. April, I'm an Aries baby, like let's live it up. So I bump up my flex spending in April a little bit, right? Because I know I'm going to want to have a good time. But most of the other months, I'm sitting at about 1,200 is usually what I sit at for my flex number. Now, when you're tracking this number, right, you're just having awareness of it every single month. You're not tracking categories. You are just tracking this overall number. Now, you're going to have a little bit of trial and error here, a little experimentation, right? Let's apply the scientific method where you're going to make a hypothesis. You're going to make your best guess based on like you've done an audit of your spending for the past couple of months or the past month. And you're like, okay, I feel like for me, the spending that I'd want to do in the flex category is going to be X amount of dollars. And so you're going to make your best guess. And then throughout the next month, you're going to stay within those confines. Then at the end of the month, I want you to assess during your financial CEO party, assess to yourself, did I feel restricted? Did that feel like way more than enough? Like what came up for you feelings wise as you were spending throughout the month? Now, with that data, then you might need to make a different decision for the next month to experiment and try out. So you're probably going to have a month where you you overestimate, you might have a month where you underestimate, and then you end up finding your middle ground. I liken this to like a goal weight and then what your actual weight should be living at and sitting at, right? Because a goal weight, I feel like for so many of us, again, I'm talking about this because especially us women, we have been given so much conditioning around this, around our health and our bodies and our weight and things like that. So a goal weight is usually less than what our bodies actually healthfully want to be sitting at. So be careful with your flex that you're not trying to shove yourself into deprivation mode just because you can. What's the amount of money that feels good where you have like a little bit of wiggle room, but still allows you to save and invest and be on track for some of those bigger picture goals to give you wiggle room? Because you also don't want to go into the YOLO fucking energy of like, I'll just spend what I want. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. No, it does matter though. This is your financial health. Okay. So that's your flex number. Now, the third number that I want you to be tracking is your profit. Hear how I said that. Profit, not income, not revenue, your profit. Now, this is very much like a business owner term, but it applies to everyone. Now, what profit means, like how I'm using this term, is cash in your personal pocket. Okay? Profit is the cash that gets to be in your personal pocket. So for my business owners who you're going to have a profit in your business, but then you're also going to have your owner's pay, whether you're on salary, whether you take owner's draws, whatever is entering into your pocket. Okay, that's the money that we are talking about. So this is the difference. Like if you're on salary and you have you make $100K as your salary, $85K would be the amount that is in your pocket, right? After taxes. And if you're contributing to other things, and that's not a correct percentage, that's just easy for my brain, right? What is hitting your bank account? What is hitting your bank account? And why I'm saying this is because I see so many business owners specifically be like, I'm making X amount. Like, why do I still feel broke? Or I doubled my income. Why didn't the money in my personal bank account double? And it's because a lot of the focus is usually on hitting a 5K month, a 10K month, 6 figures, 500K. Like there's these very specific benchmarks that actually have nothing to do with what you then get to experience personally, financially, right? Because you could have $1 million business, but if you're spending $800,000 to be hitting $1 million in revenue, that only leaves you $200,000 left to play with, right? $200,000 is very different than $1 million, right? But especially if you're like a solopreneur, if you don't have this huge team or this huge company where you've employed all these different people, it feels like, well, it's me and I am making $1 million. So why isn't the million in my bank account, right? So that's a very common headspace for, I've found, solopreneurs. So what you need to be focusing on, if you have a business, focusing on your profit, right? In your bookkeeping software, whether you're doing your books or you have an accountant doing your books, you can pull up a profit and loss statement and it literally tells you how much profit you are making, okay? But then also I want you to focus on then what are you paying yourself? What is ending up in your bank account? And now I want to talk to my creatives and my freelancers who might not necessarily have a full business that's running on its own, that's a separate entity. Your profit is what hits your bank account after your agent fees, after your expenses. Let's say you had to get headshots, right? That cost $1,500. You're going to subtract that. What is the money that is hitting your bank account that you have available to play with? And now for my W-2 babes. When your money hits your bank account, your taxes are already taken out, right? So you don't have to do profit and loss statements. But I want you to think about how much are you setting aside for retirement? Are you having those auto pulled? Are there any other things that have to happen with that money before you receive your playground money, basically? So that is what I mean when I'm saying track your profit. I actually don't really care about all those other numbers. I want you to be focused on what is the money that gets to be in your pocket. Now, again, if you have a business, there are other numbers you're going to be tracking. You are going to be tracking your revenue. You are going to be doing your bookkeeping with your expenses, or your accountant's doing that for you. You're tracking more numbers of your financial health. But when we're talking about your personal money, the only thing that matters for your personal money is what you're paying yourself, what's hitting your bank account, right? It doesn't matter how much revenue your business made. Like, I want you to imagine your business like a company that gives someone a W-2. Like, imagine you're working at a corporation. Like, you working at a corporation want to get paid your same salary, and like, you don't give a fuck what this company is profiting. You're like, are you paying me my salary though? Because I'm making my decisions based off of my salary. I want you to have that thought about your business. It's like, what does your business need to do in order to be able to pay you consistently what you need to live, right? And then continually pay yourself that, so you can count on what you get to have in your bank account every single month. And the business is going to do its business thing, right? And calibrate to be able to pay everyone's salaries. So what happens when you don't focus on this number, on the cash that is yours in the bank to be able to play with, is, come tax time, you haven't set aside money for taxes. If you're self-employed or a freelancer, you haven't set aside your 25% of estimated taxes throughout the year. And so you've overspent because you thought that you had more money to play with than you actually did. And then tax time comes and you're hit with a bill, right? And you're panicked because you either have to drain your savings or put it on a credit card or something like that. So this is why I want you to focus on what is the money that you have to play with every single month, okay? So then you're going to take that number and you're going to match it up and put it against the two numbers you found before, right? Your firm and your flex added together. That's what it costs to live as you month to month. And then you have the money you have to play with in your bank account. And I want you to match those up. Are they very similar, right? How much wiggle room do you have? Are you in the red or are you in the black? Do you have a surplus? Do you have a deficit? These are all fancy ways of saying, are you spending more than you're making, or are you making more than you're spending? Wait, did I just say that? Do you have a surplus or do you have a deficit? Do you have money to play with, or are you spending more than you are making? Okay? I want you to line those up, and I want you to see the gaps between the two numbers. Do you like the gaps or not? Right? This is why you only have to track these three numbers, because at the end of the day, this is all that matters. Are you in the interview I did with Jeremy Schneider of Personal Finance Club, where we dive all into simple investing, not paying fees, having your money work for you with you doing nothing? It's such an amazing episode. Go listen to it. It's a couple episodes back. In one of his main things he says is spend less than you make and invest the difference. That's like the whole pillar of financial independence, is spend less than you make and invest the difference. That's it. So at the end of the day, money gets to be that simple when it comes to the math of it. So your firm and your flex tells you how much you're spending every month, and then your profit, the cash in the bank, is what you're making, right? And do you have a wiggle room between those two numbers to then save for future you, to be able to put away for the vacation that you're going to take later this year, to be able to invest for your future self so that you're not having to work when you're 85 if you don't want to, right? A lot of us love what we do, and so we want to keep working until we're 85, but sometimes that's not up to you. So do you have the money available to you to be able to do those things? These are the only numbers you need to track, because these are the only things that really matter, okay? You have to make your money way simpler in order to make meaningful change. You have to make it way simple. This is why I teach you the money flow method, that is managing your money in less than 1 hour a month. You have to make it that simple so that the rest of your time can be focused on, okay, if you don't have the surplus you desire, or if you are spending more than you're making, fix that problem. So there's only two places that you could fix it. You either spend less or you make more. And with this process, as you're going through your spending and your auditing, is it actually possible for you to spend less? Are you actually spending like recklessly? There was a client I was working with where she lives in New York, she's an actor, and she was working at a restaurant, and we audited her spending, and she wasn't spending crazily, right? Like, she was spending on things that were fun for her. Like, she would go out for drinks every once in a while, she would see a show every once in a while, but very normal spending. But she wasn't breaking even. So it was like, okay, that's a very clear indicator that your focus needs to be on making more money. And she just recently got an executive assistant job, and she was able to negotiate a higher pay rate because of the work we did together. And I'm so fucking proud of her, because what she did was she funneled her energy towards making more money rather than trying to pinch pennies and pinch pennies and pinch pennies, which wasn't going to move the needle for her long term with the kind of life that she wanted to live 10 years down the road. Something was going to have to give, and it wasn't going to be booking that, series regular that she was waiting for, which I hope she books the series regular. I hope we all book series regulars, right? But how the industry is going, like, that's not really the ladder of success anymore. And that also doesn't guarantee consistent, stable income and financial security, okay? There was another client that I was working with, though, where we audited her spending, and we were like, oh my gosh, we could cut your business expenses in half. Your personal expenses, like half of this stuff you don't even remember spending money on. And all we did was audit, and she all of a sudden had a huge surplus again, right, in her bank accounts, just because we focused on the spending. So it focuses you on where do you actually need a problem solved. Instead of going straight to a budget, straight to tracking, straight to categorizing, you can focus on those bigger picture things. Now, the simplicity of money this way can be so frustrating because it forces you to focus on things that will take more effort from you. Now, almost all of my clients have this experience. When we make money this simple, it actually brings to light other problems. I don't even want to say problems, other things they want to focus on that they may have been ignoring or stuffing down because fiddling with the numbers or being anxious about money was the easier thing. So I'll give you an example for me. And I talked about this in an email recently. If you're not on my Money Monday email series newsletter, the link is in the show notes. I send out an email every Monday. Go get on that list. So, and this is where, because I'm on an Instagram break right now, this is where we can stay connected. So go get on the list. I was talking about this in this newsletter this week where I was talking about aesthetics and like trying to craft this perfect home and this perfect aesthetic. And my partner and I, we didn't get swept up in it, but we were trying to figure out how to enjoy hanging out in our living room more. Like, we live in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City, and we're obsessed with our apartment, but we were like, why don't we like hanging out in the living room? And so we were like, okay, well, maybe we need to like hire an interior designer to help us make the most of our space, and we should get this. And then we like bought this new couch, and we thought that would solve it. And then we were like, wait, why aren't we sitting on our new couch that we really love? Like, what's happening? So we were about to spend like a lot of money trying to fix this living room problem. But then what we realized when we really got down to it, we were like, we want to hang out in our living room more because we're excited about hanging out in our living room with a bunch of friends, like our community, the people we've met here in New York City, which is something we've been really intentional about building since we moved here. And so we were like, wait, we should just start hosting. Like, instead of trying to fix the living room, let's get to the core issue, which is we want to fill our home with friends and people and community. And so that's what we started doing. And then we painted a wall, which was great. It cost us like $35 to get a paint can, and that made it cozier. And we did these like little tweaks. But instead of trying to like fiddle around with like all the little bits of like this tchotchke and this couch and this light and this thing and whatever, we were like, what's the big picture problem that we're actually avoiding by trying to do interior design, which was we want a thriving community that we get to have and host in our home. And so we just focused on the big picture problem. Again, this is the difference between like couponing, pinching pennies versus you need to make a career shift and an income shift because the lifestyle you want is not going to be afforded by what you are currently making, right? Or it's about like focusing on clipping coupons and pinching pennies, or Are you just paying way too much for a home you can't afford? You bought the home because you wanted to feel like an adult, but you don't feel like an adult, so you keep spending a bunch of money trying to feel like an adult and nothing's hitting. You actually need to downsize and downgrade and go work on the internal stuff of why you don't feel like an adult or why you don't feel fulfilled with your life, because spending money on all of these things is just a buffer and a distraction from you asking yourself the question, why don't I feel life fulfillment? Like, this is the big shit that comes up when you make money not an issue. When you make the money piece simple, this is the stuff that comes up. So of course, so many of us avoid it, right? Avoid really diving in and making it simple because this stuff comes up. But at the end of the day, these questions and these problems, these are the things that actually move the needle with your life. Not just with your money, but with your life fulfillment. Okay, if you just focus on these three numbers, just tracking these three things, you will see where your money problems actually are, and then you can take needle-moving action to change them. That is the stuff that is actually going to make an impact. Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.